done mean finished. So it's definitely not finished. I can see the power is outside, so not done. But
not done. But is the city? Well, from what that's why I took it a step further, because first of all, I saw on the city website that they have their little map of the Electric Fund 2019-2023 Capital Improvement Program, which I'm assuming is preparation for undergrounding, or is undergrounding?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
But I think it could in some places, but I think it's just more of a general plan. So it might be just repairs, it might be things like that.
So it's not really clear, but anyway, who was it? James Keene said that it sounded like the city is still doing undergrounding, still planning undergrounding. It'll take 70 years rather than 50, so we won't be in.
You never know.
No, that's not going to happen. But still, what I was concerned about is how they choose which areas of Palo Alto they're going to underground. And looking at this map, I thought, well, this to me looks like preparation for undergrounding. This is the same map that I was looking at for like 2013 to 2018, where they were doing the work.
They actually have details. So there's the map, but they also have the detailed description of each project. I don't know if you also looked at it.
Maybe not close enough.
Okay. Basically, it would tell you whether they were undergrounded or not.
Okay. So what Jim said, Mr. Keene, was that he's going to ask the staff to develop a brief information memo for the council that explains the rationale for the current CIP for electrification that we will share with the public. Has that happened yet?
I have not seen it.
Okay. When that does come out, can you somehow or another spread it around?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think.
I just don't want to miss it. I'm afraid he might not send it to me.
No, I know the feeling.
Yeah. Do you know what the rationale is for how they decide what's going underground?
I think what happens is staff makes up the CIP plan every year, and we review it and then approve it. And so I think it's kind of like that. What I hope they do, which I don't know if they actually do, but what I hope they do is they try to underground it before they redo the roads. Right? That's what I hope they do. But
yeah.
I don't.
Right.
But
we had a city staffer. This was had to do with sewers. We were having some plumbing problems there. He was just joking. Said, well, you guys can pipes in this. Well, they've just repaid. We probably will do it soon.
Yeah, I know. It seems like the right hand doesn't talk to the left hand, but what I hope they would do is they look at when they redo the roads and do it before that. And I heard one of the biggest issues in terms of undergrounding is the lack of funding. So I think that's what the big
problem.
Yeah, the problem.
Well, what I don't understand then is that all the undergrounding that's gone on up till now, we've all chipped in and paid for it.
Yeah.
But now that there's no more money, then we paid for it for other people, but we're not going to get it.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
I mean, I myself, my own utilities in my house, or on my street, is not underground. And I also kind of wonder why. So I think that what has happened in general is I'm not sure you guys follow the city finances because most people don't.
Okay.
We've just a little bit that we've seen when we've been at these meetings,
but the city expenses, mainly salaries and benefits, have been growing at a much higher rate than our city's budget.
Okay.
And we also have a large unfunded pension liability, and this is eating away at whatever we can do, right? So for the same kind of service level you're getting, it's costing us a lot more, right? It's growing much faster than the rate of inflation, much faster than our budget. And so you have expenses going like this, and you have revenue going like this. It's kind of slowly going up.
How can revenue be so slow when it's like hedging here?
Oh, it's not the revenue is going slow; it's our expenses are going faster. That's the problem. So we will give like 5% per year raises, and our budget's only going about 3%, 2%. Right? Actually, it's going 1.7%. So that's the problem, right? Our rate of increase of expenses is about 2-3x that of our revenue increase. So you think about it like, you think about a line going like this, much steeper slope, and then the expense is much flatter slope. And so,
is anything being done to address this behavior of people in terms of optimizing their pensions? They do a year where they
pension
have
spiking, yeah.
Yeah, is that what could pensions just be based on regular pay, not including overtime?
Actually, I think it depending on which level you are, which plan you're on. I think that is the case actually. But the main problem is our city manager. If you look at his lifetime, I saw one of the residents did a calculation of how much it would, lifetime earnings of their city manager. It's like $30 million $30 million over the lifetime, which is not bad, right?
Yeah.
And this doesn't include the fact that we got him a house. He's gonna get quite a bit on that, or some like the top employees in the city over 20 million, right? So when you have people making $20-30 million, our city budget's only $730 million.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big chunk of change. And so if you wonder why do you not have funding for our capital projects? Well, you got to look at our expenses, right? And our expenses are growing much faster. And this is why on the contract for the new city manager, I felt that there needs to be a connection between his compensation and the city's performance. Because right now, what you have with principal managers, right, is typically known as principal agent problem. I'm sure you guys heard it before. The principal agent problem is basically, some manager make whatever he makes, no matter what happens to the city, no matter what. Right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't, versus, the private sector, the chief executive pay is highly variable. It really depends on the performance of the company.
Even where I work, people that are not at the executive level have variable
almost
pay
at all
that
levels,
are matched to metrics around their performance.
Yeah, and that's kind of why people do that, is to get around the principal agent problem. Because you imagine if you get paid the same, no matter what, then it's like, well, let's just let the city draw it. And that's what's happening, right? And that's the biggest issue, right? So for things that are critical like this, it's basically going to, we have roughly the same number of employees we did a while back, but the cost is vastly higher, right? The average city employee is at $205,000, right? The average $205,000 a year, right? You have fire crews at $300,000-$400,000 a year, right? So, so if you wonder why we can't get some basic stuff done, there's a reason why. And so that's a challenge.
Yeah, that's a big challenge.
It's a big challenge. It's unfortunate, but the problem is that the finances are very opaque, and it's kind of hard to understand. Most people don't follow it. And the simple concept is that our expenses are growing way faster than our budget, than our revenue. It's something which most people don't understand, and it's hard for people to grasp. But the way you can think about it is your own personal expense. Imagine you made $100,000 a year, but you're spending $110,000. In fact, or that your salary is only going up 2% a year, but your expenses are going up.
Yeah, expenses going up.
Yeah, and that's happening every year. So you can imagine how that kind of.
Yeah, we live that.
Yeah.
So how do we fix that problem?
Well, the main thing is kind of like, because most of the public doesn't really care about this or doesn't understand it. Usually on the financial issues, the residents are pretty silent on it, right? So when we like for instance, we just did a direct award, not just, but maybe 6 months ago, we did a direct award downtown Palo Alto. Where a direct award is if this was for repairing their sewer lines. And typically the best practice is when you do these large contracts, and this is like $10-20 million project, right? You get multiple bids.
This is why university.
Yeah, that's what's on contract.
Yeah.
But typically, when you do a project like that, you want to get multiple bids, right? It's like, imagine you're renovating your house, right? Add on to your house, right? Imagine only getting one bid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could do that certainly, right? But it's probably not the healthiest, because you want to get multiple bids. The city would do direct awards, right? Where they would award a project in.
There's one outfit that does
One outfit, yeah. And so in terms of competitive bidding, you don't really get that, right? So this project, I think, was maybe not quite double the cost, but it was considerably more, right? We're not talking about like $100,000. We're talking about $10-20 million project, right? But But that's what you have. That's the issue with principal agent firms, right? Where the chief executive, in this case, the city managers, his pay has nothing to do with how the city performs,
Right.
and so he has no real
No incentive.
I mean, you're in private sector, so you understand what I'm talking about.
Also, up to through don't get pensions anymore.
I know.
Which is
But pension's not, because the concept itself is not bad. The problem is that life expectancy so when Social Security first started, people used to die when they're 65, right? So
actually the life expectancy for a male on Social Security was 58.
that's
It was, we're never going to spend anything.
never gonna get it. Yeah. So you're right. So basically, and then now people are routinely living to 100, right? And with the pensions, you get like 90% of your pay for the rest of your life, right? Or your spouse's life. So that's the crux of the issue.
So there's a lot more going out with the and then I guess the other issue is that these people are basically on the payroll because money wasn't set aside ahead of time to cover those pension expenses.
Well, what happens is we have something called CalPERS, which is it's kind of like, you can think about like a public annuity, right, where we contribute money to it, and theoretically they're going to cover all the pensions. But in fact, theoretically all the money we're giving them, they should be banking it for future employees.
Mm-hmm.
But what in fact happens is they kind of transfer it over to the retired employees. And so we have what's called an unfunded pension liability. So if you go to the Stanford website, they have a list of all of the cities, the amount of pension deficit that we have. And so we have, in the state of California, which is about 500 cities, we're in the top 10 of the worst pension liabilities. So we have, I think it's almost like $40,000, $45,000 per man, woman, child in the city in terms of, this is debt that doesn't show up on the books. And it eats into our, it's like, the way you can think about it is, CalPERS says, everything's okay, but it makes big assumptions about what our return of investment is going to be. And so it says it's solvent, but actually, if you look at more realistic return rates, there's about $1 billion short, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other big.
If you apportion that over the population, you say it's $45,000.
Something like that, 44. I think it's 44, but it's on the Stanford website, and it talks about like Palo Alto's, so you look at what Menlo Park is, right, or East Palo Alto or Mountain View, they're like somewhere mid the list. We're like very top, right? So that's the challenge, right?
So do we have any control on that as far as being citizens of Palo Alto, of like limiting people's what they're earning, from the city?
Well, theoretically, the council has control, right? The council does, but the council rarely ever hears anyone talk about this at all, right?
Okay.
And so, for most part, whatever the staff says, we just kind of rubber stamp it, right? Now, I don't do that, right? And so on these, I kind of, it's kind of like 8-1 vote, but my colleagues,
that the salaries were raised, was that some time ago in November, right, or early this year?
consistently, right?
Yeah.
So
It was 8-1.
8-1, yeah. So if this bothers you, right, then you tell your friends, you get them right in. But until council,
We got 50 emails that day saying no.
I know. So sometimes even if the residents say no, the council still says yes.
Yes.
But I mean, the reason why is because in general, like, from the council, it's hard to say no to staff because if you say no to staff, you're kind of, they don't necessarily like you, right?
Right. You're putting yourself.
Yeah. So and to get stuff done, you want staff to like you, right? So, but for me, I feel like I need to treat this money like my money, right? And so I feel like it would be unconscionable for me to not try to be fiscally responsible.
Okay.
So it's,
So when do these discussions come up in council?
Oh, we basically every Monday.
Every Monday they're talking about.
But they're on consent calendar, so you guys never really hear about it. So
I'm getting it now.
yeah, so consent calendar are ones that are kind of automatically approved, unless someone pulls it, right? But typically on the ones that are really egregious, I'll vote no on. But typically there's no discussion, so it doesn't really show up on the paper. And it's just.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you read about it in the newspapers, although they just gave themselves a raise or whatever.
Sometimes. But you see, I think in the city, for the most part, people are really excited about development or non-development. That's kind of I guess like 90% of the attention.
Well, traffic issues, all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Horizon.
But the fiscal issues get almost no attention. So
Right.
So
It's just boring to read. Like no one wants to read through like
Yeah.
10-page report full of numbers.
Well, I mean, if that's what's impacting
Yeah.
undergrounding.
Oh yeah,
You
definitely.
know,
Well, I mean that, but also like for instance, we spend money on project which maybe we should have. I don't know if you know that the Ross Road project, right? But we spent a lot of money.
Oh God,
Yeah.
yes.
So I mean, we
No,
could
don't
have.
get me started.
So we could have used that money.
You live near Ross Road?
We're not
Yeah.
too far.
Okay.
Not too far.
But we could use that money for undergrounding, for instance, right? And that's something which I think everyone would have been happy about, right?
Yeah, everybody's
So-
been complaining about what they did.
And not get like 200 complaints.
Yeah.
Well, I was just curious. I mean, is the person who's doing this traffic planning now? I mean,
I think we.
what
Are
are
we
they thinking?
getting It's a maybe just let me know. Okay.
Because it seems like all these things, you know, the bicycles are being forced into traffic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think there's good thought behind it, but the main thing to me is like if those parties are really controversial, why not put the money into undergrounding, for instance? Which I don't think anyone's going to protest to that.
Right.
No one's going to say, "Oh, let's not do undergrounding."
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, about that, I'm just going to say real quick. I forget what her name was. You probably remember the woman who did the Bryant Street bike.
Oh yeah.
Road.
Mhm.
What was her name?
Ellen Fletcher?
Ellen Fletcher.
Yeah.
You know, if they're worried, if they say, well, we're worried about, you know, bicycles and cars, why don't they just do another Bryant Street down there? You know, either on Ross or on Lewis or on Greer.
My philosophy is we should spend money on things that are like no-brainers, right? We're ones which we're not going to be tremendous controversy, right? And the ones that have tremendous controversy, maybe we need to kind of figure that out first before we.
Like Verizon.
Yeah. or like undergrounding, right?
Yeah,
Undergrounding.
underground
I mean,
Verizon. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, we have telephone poles that are very, like, old school, right?
Yeah.
You would think, and also we want to be a tree city, right? And so, trees gonna hit the line.
have you driven down Los Altos? What is that? San Antonio to Los Altos? They have all their power things in the middle,
Oh yeah.
and I think they have good coverage and all that stuff. It's not a problem, and it doesn't bother anybody. Anyway, so why not put in another bike street? That's just that's just a thought.
Where would
because-
you like another bike street?
Well, I'm just saying if that was the reason for slowing traffic down, why not put another one like we have
Yeah.
on Bryant, like either Ross, Lewis,
Yeah.
or Greer? That's where they are now.
Yeah.
It just seems that the way they're going about it is, it just really makes sense. I mean, they call it traffic calming, right?
Sure.
Which is you create these pinch points, and people are not calm about it.
Yeah.
We live a block away from the Bryant.
Bryant is so nice.
It's so
And we
nice.
use it.
I can go down when I bike it. I can bike at 20 miles an hour and just go
Yeah.
through it
We
very
walk
fast.
right, and I heard
Yeah,
Liz
city-
Smith say that something, that people hated that when that first came out, and people love it. People love it. It's been really great for
Well, I
bicycles.
use Brent all the time. So.
Yeah.
So do you have to?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I
Okay,
do.
okay,
Are other
okay.
people coming?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you want to say anything
Okay.
about the
The parking.
the fries thing?
Yeah.
And
We-
the absence
Why
of
don't you
the parking?
why don't you go get them and we'll wrap up here.
Yeah, well, real quick, we learned about the Fry's development project because we were there for the Verizon thing. And they said, I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was something like there's going to be about 200, 300 new units, and they're only going to provide parking with let's say there's 300 new units, they're only going to provide parking for 200. That was insane.
I don't think it's been finalized yet, actually.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank goodness.
I think they're going to be doing a lot of studies on it.
But
So
if you look at what happened on the developments on West Bay Shore and it's at the very end of Meadow, there's parking. The parking is just spilling onto the into the neighborhood. And even this notion that we have these big 4 to 5 bedroom houses that have one car garages, that there should be like one off street.
fully parked.